What's good? It's your boy Nova Z the ENT coming back with another video. Hey, thanks for the couple people who watched the first one. You guys are on the ground floor of a movement. I love it and I respect you. And I can't wait to see what growth we have as a team and what we get to. Apologize for these under my eyes. Work construction. I got a lot of kids, so everybody always says I look like I got into a fight. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Well, whatever story's better for you. Now I was watching the debate, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna do a react to it, but I kind of wanted to make sure that I get my thoughts on this on paper, so that way when I do a react to it, you can come back to this video and kind of compare what I say to his video and videos that I'm gonna react to in the future, right? Um, One of the things that the internet has sensationalized is debates, and I used to enjoy debates. The entertainment quality of seeing two people go back and forth for their ideals at first used to seem very useful. But when you watch enough debates, you can see like they absolutely lose their integrity and their entertainment value in general, because you can tell that people aren't genuine when they're having these debates. The goal is to win and not to impart knowledge, right? Um, I've realized over time, whether it be talking in real life or watching interacting with media, that you could just lie, right? Like, so let me give you kind of an example. Like, I'm gonna circle back to this, so stay with me, right? Having a good conversation with somebody usually gets way more done than trying to have a debate with somebody, because I think when you come in guarded, like you come in when you're um unable to lose in a situation, you can't have a good conversation, right? Like, take for instance, I'm gonna go back to this, like Stevie Knight and ABBA. Um, Stevie Knight said, "Oh, it's a debate. Somebody's goal is to win." And then ABBA, when you look at his videos, he was talking like it was a conversation, right? So Stevie was unwilling to understand ABBA's points because he would lose the conversation if he did. He also might be stupid. Now that's another thing to talk about too, right? Not everybody is intelligent. That's just the way the world works. But in his unwillingness to lose, he had to start being disingenuous in the conversation. Had to stop understanding what Apple was trying to get across, if he even understood it in the first place. When you watch the old Shapiro debates and stuff like that, right? I mean, the reason why he's talking to college kids, and they're unable to form opinions beforehand, cite sources, do research, it's because the gotchas are way better, and he's able to better clip those, and he's better able to get his audience where they need to be. One of the things that I've always found super interesting in these debates and things like that. Have you ever seen, the TikTok videos of the conservatives who realize while they're speaking that their points don't connect, that they're not congruent, and then you can see the moment, like they'll be talking, then you see like they slow down, they look around. It's because they're trying to figure out how to get their what they're about to say to realign with what they realize is wrong beforehand, because it's a core part of their personality, right? Like, take for me for instance. I believe in my heart of hearts that the Cardinals will win the Super Bowl at some point in my lifetime. They've been to the Super Bowl once. We were one drive away from it. I think we can get back there. It may be irrational, but it's a core part of my being. I'm never going to stop being a Cardinals fan, right? But then you'd have to ask me a question, right? Let's say the Cardinals moved to Waukegan, Illinois, and it became the Waukegan Cardinals. That's the same team. Okay, well, they're not the Arizona Cardinals anymore. I wasn't alive when they moved from St. Louis to Arizona. Um, so yeah, I'm a Waukegan Cardinals fan now. Now, let's say what's the national? Let's say the Waukegan is known for um, tires, right? Like they're the tire capital of America, and they become the Waukegan Wheels. Am I still a fan of that team? It's the ship of Theseus. They're not the original, because they got the same owner, same roster. The name is different, right? And then let's say they put another team back in Arizona called the Cardinals again. Do I become a fan of that Arizona Cardinals, or does a spirit of the original Arizona Cardinals that I supported exist in Waukegan, Illinois, in the Waukegan Wheels now? That's something that I'd have to come to terms with. I'd have to think about that, right? And I don't personally know how I would handle that. And you see that in real time in these videos, right? You see a lot of these conservatives in these videos. realize that what they're saying, even the leftists, sometimes like one of the best things you can have a conversation with a leftist is when you don't agree with their leftist talking points and you're not white. It's a pastime of mine. Back in the back when breweries used to be a big thing. One of the best things that I used to enjoy is you go to a brewery, somebody's talking, you struck up a conversation with somebody. Inevitably, when you're drinking, it gets to politics, and then they express an incredibly left leaning, but you can tell poorly thought out view, and you just disagree with it. You're like, I don't really believe that, And then their first line of defense is usually race. Like they usually go like, oh well, well, I can't say he's a white man, so oh man, and you can see it. They haven't prepared anything to counteract a black person who doesn't have an incredibly leftist view, because they probably know black people, but the black people they know probably have leftist views. So they haven't had their dialogue tree hasn't leveled up to be able to navigate that. But kind of getting it back to what I was talking about, like the reason why these debates become so useless is that you can just lie, right? Like when you see those videos of the conservatives realizing that they were wrong mid speech, like in the middle of talking, but still find a way to get back to it. Sometimes you get the truth, right? Where they're just like, well, it's not gonna change my vote. Like, even though those things don't align with what I'm saying right now and my core beliefs, I'm not changing my vote, right? So that I don't respect the person, but I respect that they're willing to just be like, I don't care. All the things I said are lies. My opinion is this. I don't need a reason, right? It's because, have you ever been to a point where like you don't know your ATM pin code, but you can type it in, right? There's a point at which a fact doesn't need a reason anymore. It's just a fact. Your body accepts it as intrinsic, right? It's hard for people to have their core building blocks shaken, and even myself, So when you see a lot of these debates, you can tell somebody's losing. Like, that's, and again, another problem with debates is that it could just be up to the ability of the orator. Like, you could have two people, one has a very shaky ground to stand on, and the other one has you can tell that, hey, they're pretty succinct, right? But the guy on the shaky ground could just be a great conversationalist. He could, debates are gotchas. Debates are about getting the other person to concede or getting the other person to not be able to defend themselves. This guy could just do a really good job of making it so the other guy can't defend himself, even if he has more prepared or better points to make. He just can't articulate them well. Having a conversation will beat having a debate any day, because even when someone is lying in a conversation, you know in your heart of hearts, you can tell when they got your point, but now they're being obstinate to try to figure out how to get around it. But the thing about debates is you can win. You can win and lose a debate, and the win is decided by people who are outside of the conversation in most respects, in public image and visuals. And you can win a debate while making no points, as long as the other person looks frustrated, looks like they don't know what they're talking about, things of that nature. um, you know, the Amazing Lucas, that's one of the videos I'm gonna react to today, hopefully, right? Today when I'm recording it, I don't know when I'm gonna post it. I don't know when I'm gonna post this. But he was talking to the Hodge twins, the Hypercoons Hodge twins, and he said that while he was speaking to them, he realized that they just do not have. I'm gonna link the video in the description, just to kind of give you some help on that. He realized that they just don't have the processing power to tangle with him, and like he's not even throwing out any hard concepts or anything of that nature. He just doesn't believe the Hodge twins have the ability to understand what he's talking about. And when you listen to a Hodge twin video, you can tell, like they're not there because they're intellectually sound. They're there because their white conservative audience wants to be able to hear bad things about black people through the lens of a black person, so they can feel better about holding what they have in their hearts and minds, you know, uh, ad nauseum. Like they don't want to be challenged. They don't want to think. They don't want good points made. They want to hear what they want to hear. It's like a comedy show. Sometimes a comedy show, you just want to laugh. You don't want to think. You want to turn your brain off. That's what the Hodge twins are for these people. And when he got there and he was, chopping it up with them, he was like, man, they're not very intelligent. They haven't thought any of their points out. They've never had back, and it's okay. They might not be debaters, but if you can't defend your worldview, you shouldn't have it. If you are uncomfortable with, like, whenever it says, "Oh man, let's not talk politics, let's not make it political." Oh, you have a bad take. I've never seen somebody who said like, let's not make it political." Then you ask them a question and they have a really well thought out series of takes, you know, in their for whatever subject they're talking about. It's usually something they're uninformed about. Somebody told them, Facebook showed them, and they've never looked into it. You know, that's where usually what you get, and those are the people who need a certain type of video to get them where they need to be. You know, debates when I was younger used to be cool. Used to be seem like, oh, I got you, I got it, he got him. But you could even go back and watch some of the debates of old and go, they're not talking about anything. Like they're actually not able to talk about anything because they're not trying to lose. It's like it's like watching a real life court case. The truth is somewhere in there, but both people want to establish what their version of the truth is, and there's a chance that you could say something now that in an hour could be used to refute your earlier point, even if they have nothing to do with each other, right? So, you know, try to have more conversations with people. Try to be more genuine. Try, you know, to feel people out. You know, if you take nothing else from any of the videos I ever make, there's a I don't even. Here's another funny thing about facts. I don't remember who told me this, but somebody back in the day told me something I've taken so close to my heart, that I tend to have people do this to me so I can make sure I'm consistent. He says, always ask two questions. The first question is always the fact. The second question is the premise. And most people don't remember the premise. They only remember the fact. And you know, and I was like, man, what do you mean? And he was like, take you for instance. What's your favorite food? Like, man, I like ham. Why? I don't remember. I have no idea why ham is my favorite food. I know I like it. I know if you ask me, it's instant. I can tell you that ham is my favorite food, but I couldn't tell him why. I often couldn't tell people why. When I have conversations with somebody, really strong, you know, conversations about people, I would say, hey, yeah, okay, I know you think this. Why? And they usually freeze up, or you see like they hadn't thought about it, or they thought about it at one point, but they no longer need to think about it because it's a fact. You know. So if you take nothing else from what I say today, debates useless. The entertainment value of them has even gone down because you can tell people aren't trying to have a conversation. A lot more people, including you, including me, should have conversations with people just to kind of hear them out. Because at the end of the day, you catch way more flies with honey. One.